All right. Hello, everyone. This is Megan from meganflatt.com, and I'm here with some amazing mama CEOs to share the behind the scenes of how they run their business, their family, keep their sanity, sometimes lose their sanity, like I just did starting our webinar about 8 minutes late. We'll share that story sometime. But before we get started, let's go around and just let everyone introduce yourselves, tell us a little bit about your family, your kids, and a little bit about your business. Susie, let's start with you.
Okay, cool. Hi, I'm Susie Istvan. I run a digital branding and design agency called Social Susie, and also build starter websites over at asplendidstart.com. I have 3 kids. They are 2, 3.5, and 7, all boys. And I've been married to my husband, who is my childhood sweetheart, which is pretty fun. So we've been married for 10 years, and we've been best friends since we were 8 years old. So we've got a pretty crazy, busy family life going on in addition to running the business. So I'm excited to share my insight, but also learn from other people how not to go crazy. So.
Exactly. I think that's so, I was instant messaging with Susie this morning on how not to go crazy about kids' homework assignments. So yeah. We all need each other. So Jules, how about you next?
Sure. I am Jules Taggart, and I have a daughter, Olympia. She's 7 months, almost 8 months now. My husband and I have been married for 10 years, so we got a little late start on the whole family thing. So my business was actually in place before I had a baby, and I've heard that it's easier to do it that way than the other way, or maybe it's the opposite. I'm not sure. We'll have to ask Faraday and others who have done it. But so we've been married for 10 years. His name is Jeff, and we live in San Diego, and I'm a content strategist. So I help a lot of people with blogging and content strategy and how to get their message heard.
Excellent. All right, so Faraday, that brings us to you, and you are a mama CEO in the making. So why don't you tell us a little bit about you?
I'm Faraday, and I'm a musician and launch strategist, and I am 22 weeks pregnant. So it's definitely a new journey, being like, oh, I made this web business. Oh, wait, what is this? What will I do with this thing over here? So, yeah, I was totally excited because I was like, oh, I'm going to pick up some tips from these ladies. Very exciting.
Well, I'm really excited to have you on the panel. I think so many, whether it's your first baby or your second baby or your fifth baby, so many women are in this position that you're in where it's like, okay, we're adding a new member to our family, and what do we do to set ourselves up for that? And so I'm really interested to hear from you. I started this version of my business after I had kids, and like Jules said, she started before. And Susie, you were kind of before and after, right?
Yeah, this version of my business really got started when I was pregnant with my youngest, and started to take off in a big way when he was very young, like 7 or 8 weeks old, which was not really the plan. It just sort of happened. So yeah, I was kind of before and after with them. So, but I don't know about you, Megan, or if you felt this way, Jules, and you may feel this way, Faraday, but I got weirdly fueled by pregnancy, like weirdly, like not just nesting, but like super focused, super productive. And then the first 4 weeks after I have a baby, I'm a completely useless human being. But then after that, like I am pedal to the metal. I think it has never been a better time for me to be creative and making things, and I always just felt like I kind of expanded because it's not like the baby's an option to like not do things with them, right? So you're just gonna, and having that be a non-negotiable, you just kind of absorb it. It's just something that you're able to, you can keep growing your life, and you just sort of adapt to having kids. And I don't know if that's a freaky thing with me, but for me, pregnancy and having newborns, for whatever reason, makes me more productive. Not a state I want to be in all the time, but I try to tell new moms and moms to be that, because I think it's really scary that you'll suddenly lose that edge, and for me, it's intensified.
I think that I sometimes think about like pre-baby and like what did I do with all my free time, because I think you just get so hyper focused when you know you have a limited amount of time. And then I'm going to call Faraday out a little bit. I hope she doesn't mind, but I'm going to speak to that pregnancy fuel. Faraday, I think, just had her largest grossing month ever.
Oh my gosh.
And she attributes it to this I think there's just more blood flow going to your brain. You've got all these great new ideas, but also Faraday, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but this motivation too, like, okay, baby's coming, let's ride the donkey, as you and
we're not messing
Leonie
around
said.
no more. It's like, oh, it just got real. Yeah, no, definitely. I'm actually calling it. I mean, I call it the manic phase of pregnancy, because definitely the first trimester was like, I was out. I was like, there was a lot of days I could only work 1 or 2 hours. I was just so ill. But then second trimester, I'm like, I've got all this energy. Do you know this image that's just like a weird cartoon, and the guy's like, all the feelings now, or all the things now, and I was like, all the money now. So it's just like 12-hour days. You betcha, no problem. I can do this. I can do anything. So, yeah, and I did have my best month, because I realized that, like, I just needed to save a ton of money. I mean, and not because, like, my husband, I happen to be in a wonderful situation where my husband makes a great living, and so there's no actual pressure on me to, like, I mean, eventually he'd like me to bring in an income, but I make way more money than when I was a musician, so he's already, like, proud of me. But, I mean, I have high standards. I wanted, like, a nanny and a cleaner, and I want to be able to run this business because I love it, and I love that kind of freedom, and that costs money. So, and I'd like to run it like I hope my business doesn't die while I'm, in that first 4 weeks, and so, that costs money too for somebody else to run it. So, yeah, it's the manic phase. I didn't notice I was manic until I talked to a VA, and I was like, and I want to do this and this and this and this and this. You're cool with that, right? And I was like, whoa, she must think I am bipolar. But I like hearing that it might even happen after. That sounds great.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm so excited to talk to everyone. I love that we just kind of dived right in. My first official question for Jules and for Susie is, what is the best thing? We're all mama CEOs, and Faraday, you absolutely already are a mama CEO, I promise you. But what is the best thing about being a mama CEO, being a mom and running a business at the same time? And the next question, I'll throw it out there anyway, is what do you find the most challenging about that? So we can say both at the same time. So Jules, why don't we start with you?
I wish I had a more creative answer for this, but I think for me it's flexibility on both ends. So I love that there's flexibility, that I can, run my business and have my baby and have family time, and if I want to take 5 days off, I do. I don't know, that would really maybe give me heart palpitations, but I could technically, right?
You could.
5 days off. But on the flip side of that, flexibility is kind of a struggle for me too, because I have it, and so I tend to use it, like emailing on a Saturday morning during nap time or something. I mean, I do what I do what I need to do, and I love that I have the option to do it, but I also have to put like some boundaries around it, or I would never make time for anything but the mama and the CEO. And there's a bunch of other parts to me. I have friends and a husband and like all these, things I want to do beyond just my business and my baby, and so it's a double-edged sword, I think, for me.
Yeah.
One I'm grateful I have.
Yeah, and I think that is kind of that hard part about deciding what kind of boundaries you want to set, because just because, like you said, just because you can be working on your business doesn't necessarily mean you should be. But I know we all four of us here, and probably most of the viewers, we all love what we do also, so I get really fueled by getting to work on my business, and like you said, taking a big chunk of time off is like, whoa, wait, I'm not sure if I want to, so finding that balance. Susie, how about for you? What are you loving, and what's kind of a struggle?
Well, I was thinking about this because you asked me the other day, and I kind of have two reasons that I love it. I think the first is more about the CEO part than the mama part, and I think anyone who has their own business can probably appreciate this if they have kids or not. But I used to work I've worked in a lot of different settings doing what I do, but before I started my own business, I worked for Lululemon, the athletic company, helping them to open up their Cincinnati stores, and I was doing all their community engagement and helping to get this store off the ground, and I got recruited for the job and loved it. And that's actually how I know Val, who was supposed to be on the panel. She also worked for the same company. So, and I remember thinking while I was working these insane hours and never home and all over the place, and it was fun, but I remember thinking the next time I ever work this hard and lose this much family time, it will be for my own business. Like, I am never, ever working this hard for someone else's business again. And I don't know why I thought that, because I didn't hate it, but so that's a big one for me, is if I'm going to be away from my kids, I know I'm building something that I can't get fired from or just lose or get taken away, or I'm building like a legacy, hopefully, for them. So that's the main reason I really like running my own thing, even though it gets hard sometimes. The other reason it's really important for me to be able to do this as a mom is I have 3 kids, and my middle son, my 3-year-old Ollie, actually has autism, and he has between 3 and 7 therapy appointments a week. I don't know how I would do that if I worked a corporate job. I don't know, and people don't. I would have to. I'm literally, on the mornings I'm working, I'm driving him to school. I'm finding a cafe to set up my laptop in and work while he's at school. I pick him up. I take him to the sitter. Then I come home or to my office to work. And there's no way I could do that if I worked for somebody else. The flip side of that is, there's times when I can't get my work done because Ollie's having a really hard week, or or we're right now fighting with the whole education system and his IEP and stuff, which is incredibly time consuming. So there's times where I'm like, I wish I could just call in and like hang out with Ollie, but I need to get stuff done. So that's, like Jules said, it's that double-edged sword where it's great and it's necessary, and it's also the reason that it's really difficult sometimes. And to be fair, not just Ollie. My 7-year-old has needs too, and my 2-year-old certainly, who is always in trouble, has needs too. So there's definitely, like, everybody has demands. So it's hard. It's great and difficult.
Absolutely. I think that's such a good point, and I think that's probably how I feel too. I always wanted to do this, and I say it in my bio and everything, that I want to help moms have businesses that they're proud of, but be able to be actively present in the day-to-day lives of their kids. And I've kind of told the story before that I always thought I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. My mom was a stay-at-home mom, and I thought that was such a great gift to be able to give your children, and it was after my daughter. My kids are 4, she just turned 4 last week, 4 and 6, and when my 4-year-old was an infant, and I just remember starting to cry and being like, wait, why my life is perfect, like I have everything that I wanted, like what is going on? And I realized it was because I wasn't working for myself. I've been an entrepreneur my whole life. I've actually never had a 9-to-5 job. I've never had a corporate job. I've been an entrepreneur since I was teaching swim lessons and dance as like a 12-year-old, but it was that, like, I need to be doing this for myself. And then, and Susie, I know you and I were talking about this last week. It's the pro and the con, because I put so much. Actually later in the week during the Mama CEO interviews, one of the other Mama CEOs I interviewed, she said, I'm the meanest boss I've ever had. And I can relate to that a little bit, We put so much pressure on ourselves to get something done by a certain day or do something a certain way. And I think that's kind of the challenge. Like you said, there's no one to just say, hey, I'm not going to be able to get to this assignment, or hey, I'm calling in sick today. You are that person. But at the same time, my mom, my own mother, just had knee surgery this past week, and I was able to pack up my laptop, and thankfully I have a wonderful husband who was able to, adjust his work schedule to be with the kids, and I was able to pack up my laptop and head to my parents' house to be able to help my mom and my dad after my mom had surgery, and spent 4 days there. And just like you said, Susie, I mean, I know you deal with it on a daily and a weekly basis, but if I had a corporate job, that would have been a lot harder, and my family really needed me. My family of origin, my parents really needed me. So I'm so appreciative that I can do that. And I think it's just about kind of setting up that structure and setting up those boundaries so that you can do all of those roles. So Faraday, I want to hear from you. what you are doing in these few months to kind of prepare yourself and prepare your business. We're talking about kind of setting up those boundaries and setting up systems. I want to hear what you're doing in this phase to kind of get ready for mamahood.
Well, I think the cool thing is that we were trying before, and so I knew that I wanted to get pregnant, and so I actually started preparing my business before I got pregnant, thinking about systems and support as far as the team goes, and knowing that, like, there's some element of even learning the skills of having support, right? Like, you can't just like bring on a VA and then go on it. Firstly, they need training, but you also need to learn how to delegate better. Mm-hmm. So I started with some of that stuff, and then it was very helpful because first trimester, nothing happened from my end. It was just like I'd like sleep and then wake up 5 minutes before a client meeting and then be like, "Hi, how are you doing? How can I help you?" And then I'd pass out right after. And so that was the first trimester. And the second trimester now, I mean, it has a lot to do with looking at the services I offer and seeing that they won't accommodate a child. Like, there's just no way I could live this life and do so much one-on-one. And the great thing is that a lot of my one-on-one services pay very well, but I don't enjoy it. And so what used to be okay no longer is okay. Because I'm like, well, one, if I don't enjoy it, then there's no point. Because I'm guessing I'm going to really like this little creature, and I'm going to want to leave it, for something that I'm just like, meh, meh. So a lot of it has to do with experiment. I'm in a place of just experimenting a lot with new ways to offer my services that are more accommodating to my needs and the needs of my future child. I mean, who knows what those needs will be, but guessing. and yeah, just experimenting with what actually sells and trying to keep, of course, my clients' needs in mind as well as what they want to buy. So that's kind of where I'm at now. And then I feel like third trimester, I'm not banking on, because there's some people who don't feel that well, but I'm gonna kind of keep that for setting up the baby room and writing out some blog posts.
Yeah, I feel like you get this surge, right? Second trimester, like you just get this surge, like whether you're sick or just kind of feeling a little run down in your first trimester, and then second trimester, just like you're doing, all of a sudden it's like, I can do all the things, everything. Yeah, and then third trimester could kind of go either way.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I love that. And I think that's so interesting. I think that's a good, Susie kind of mentioned it too, like exactly what you're saying, where you start to kind of pick and choose when you're becoming a mom, and when you're a mom, you really start to pick and choose, not just within your business, but I feel like just in your life in general. It's like everything you kind of weigh against, is this worth not being with my family? And some things totally are, and some things aren't. And it could be a friendship, it could be a relationship, or it could be an activity, or all of those different things that you start to just kind of weigh against, and within your own business too. And it's the advice that Susie sometimes gives me when I need to be talked off the ledge. Like, this is your business. You get to decide what to do. Mm-hmm. So Jules, let's go back to you. We're kind of talking, systems and things that we've set up in our business, or decisions that we've made inside our business or inside our home life. What systems or just strategies have you put in place since having your baby to help you, either business, home, or one of each, to kind of run things a little more smoothly and help you kind of keep your sanity?
Well, I really identify with what Faraday was saying about deciding what kind of services to offer, and what kind of stuff you really like to do and what you don't like to do. I kind of went through that same or similar transition when I was pregnant, and I went the other way. So instead of, I no longer offer anything that you can buy on my website. There's nothing that's replicatable other than the service, the one-on-one services that we do. And I decided to invest in my team instead and bring in more people that could help me really nail one-on-one services, because that's the stuff that I like. So when I think about not spending time with my family, I wanted to be one-on-one services. But then I do think, with systems, what you said about setting yourself up for having a bigger team is so important. I've never thought of it that way, but it's so right. Like, I'm really type A and very just meticulous about pretty much everything. And so it's hard for me to say, okay, I don't have to do this my way. It just needs to be done, in a way that's in alignment with my brand, and I need to give more ownership to my team, and that's something that I am still working on. But I think it's one of the things that's allowed me to grow. If I do want to serve clients one-on-one, I have to be able to let go of some of the details of it and just make sure that the client's getting what they need in the end. So for me, it's not like I follow a specific process. I just try to check in with myself and surround myself with people who can kind of call me out on it when I'm not doing that, and empower my team to do the same, to say, hey, I want to do this my way, just let me do it. And so that's been interesting. It's always a work in progress, I guess.
Absolutely. How about Susie? How about for you? What have you set up either at home or in your business or both to keep things running?
I actually am very similar to Jules in that way, and I have a team, and that's something that I've always wanted, though, from the time I started. As a designer, I always wanted to have an agency. I always wanted to be collaborative and working with other people, and it's just kind of started coming together this past November. But so I have now, I'm kind of the creative director, CEO role. I have my hand in kind of everything, but I do have 2 designers and 2 developers that work for me. I just hired, I have a VA, but I just hired an operations manager because I'm spending all my time delegating, which is not really my role in the business either. So it's nerve-wracking from, like Jules was saying, how do I get everybody to do things the way I want them to do? But I have also learned, as much as I love running a business, I don't always have the right answers, and sometimes it's better to hire someone who knows what they're doing and let them tell me what to do, which I'm fine with. So that's been really, really helpful, is finding the right people. When I found the right people, that made it a whole lot easier. But finding the right people, finding the right tools so that we can collaborate with each other without it being cumbersome. We probably should have done what Faraday suggested and figured out our systems before we brought everybody on, but I really needed the help. So I brought everybody on, and we're figuring out our systems as we go. We're writing out our team handbook as we work, which is better late than never. So that's been probably huge, is just having the support there, and having that ability to work with people. And then for me also, I don't work with my kids at home typically. 3 days a week they are at a sitter. They are with other kids. They're having way more fun than me trying to work on a laptop while they're not looking. And there are, on my days off, there are times I'm definitely sneaking off to my laptop to work a little, especially during busy times. But I do get them out of the house. That was a really important system for me, was to have that separation, because I realized when I had them all home with me when my youngest was really little, I never had a break. There's no difference between Monday morning and Friday night if you're always home and your kids are always home and you're always working. There's no boundaries at all. So for me, it was super important to have dedicated work days. I'm trying to get better about dedicated work time so that it doesn't bleed into evenings. And letting the kids go off and do their own thing while I'm totally focused on work, so that everybody's a little happier.
Yeah, I think that has probably been for me, and it's definitely something that I recommend to my clients, trying to set up those work hours. And again, we work for ourselves, and whether you have a baby or not, that's the pro and the con. Like Jules said, that's the flexibility that if I'm working on a big project or I want to be available to my clients, I can work outside those work hours. But setting up some boundaries. So not only do I know what my work hours are, but my kids know what my work hours are. So even if I do, I put my kids in front of the TV sometimes, especially like you said, if it's the weekend or my husband's not around or they're on a day off or I'm busier, but I can say to them, hey, you guys are going to have a snack, you guys are going to watch one cartoon, I have to get some work done or I have a call, and then after that, we're going to go do this other thing. And so we all know what the expectations are. And you know, it's not just because I found myself, you know, sneaking off to check my phone or running off to do something. Oh, yeah, I'm totally listening to you, but on my laptop. And now and they're a little older. It's different when you have a baby, but now I'm just really honest with them. Like, hey, I'm really busy today. I've got a lot of work I have to get done. I'm going to need a lot of help from you guys. But then tomorrow, we're going to go to the zoo or, you know, whatever it is. So that's been, and it's helped me too. I noticed that I'm a morning person. I am not a night owl. I used to tell myself that I could get work done after the kids went to bed, and I was like, whoa, you know, it would take me forever to get anything done. And once I told myself I don't work again, unless there's some, you know, something that I have to get done or, you know, I'm behind on something, but for the most part, I don't work after my kids go to bed. And I found that I'm actually more productive during the day because I know exactly how much time I have. I know that my workday ends at 2 o'clock when I have to go get my kids from school. And then I'm really realistic when I look at my list. I'm like, okay, can I get these things done before 2 o'clock? Yes. Then that's what I work on. And I don't let it kind of keep bleeding out into the afternoon, or at least I try. I mean, it's always, you know, best case scenario.
It does. You get reminders though, like the last couple of weeks with Ollie, our special needs kid, has been really difficult. And anyone who's got a kid with special needs knows that like it goes in waves. There's times where everything's under control, and then your kid grows and changes, and stuff changes, and everything blows up, and then you got to figure it out again. And so the last 2 weeks, that when it hasn't been work hours, I'm not getting anything done because he needs so much. And then I realize how much work isn't getting done, and that's a really big clue. Like, oh, you need to restructure. Like, you were really relying on that bleed over time, and that's when it's time to bring in more help or restructure your day or look at the projects you're saying yes to or look at the scope creep. I realized I had a few clients that were going way over the number of hours they'd retained us for, and so it was all falling into my evenings. So it can end up being a good thing that you have these little walking alarm clocks that will let you know it's time to pay attention to them, because you'll see where your time is going, which I think if I didn't have kids, I love what I do so much, I would probably just keep doing it all the time until I burned out. So
yeah. And you know what, I'll tell you, I'll give a quick story about today just to kind of illustrate that point with my own kids. I don't know how much to go into it. My children are vaccinated, but whatever your beliefs are on that. But my daughter, who's just turned 4, hasn't had her MMR booster shot, which most kids get right before they start kindergarten, or at least at my pediatrician's office. I'm in California. I'm in Marin County. If you saw the Jon Stewart spoof on measles in Marin County, that's where I live. And it turns out that our babysitter had been exposed to measles. So now the babysitter doesn't have measles, but I found out last week while I was in the hospital with my mom having knee surgery, I get a text from the babysitter that she'd been exposed to measles. So I call my pediatrician. Pediatrician's not too worried because everyone involved, babysitter's vaccinated, my kids are vaccinated, but she wants me to bring my daughter in to get that booster shot. So I schedule the appointment. Okay, perfect. I can pick her up from preschool at this time. I'll get her to the doctor at this time, and then we can still get to ballet class by this time. Got it all worked out, everything. 2 o'clock in the morning last night, my eyes pop open, and I go, what about my son? I had completely forgot in the planning that he needed to be picked up from school somewhere in that. And thankfully, talk about it takes a village. Thankfully, I was able to send an email off to a mom of his classmate and say, hey, could Brittany hang out with you for about 15 minutes after school today? And I'm sure I wouldn't have actually forgot him, but I literally went pretty much the whole weekend with this plan to get my daughter where she needed to be and completely forgot about the poor other child. So
I once drove, I think I was driving Ollie to therapy, and I had Dino, the little one, in his car seat, and I forgot to drop him off at the sitter and just kept going. I got to therapy and opened the back door of the minivan and was like, oh, there's 2 of you. I ended up bringing Dino to a meeting with me. I think it was fine, but yeah, they're fine. They're flexible. It's good.
Exactly. So I can't even remember. I got off track a little bit. Did anyone else want to add anything? Because I'm thinking about remembering to pick my child up from school. Did anyone want to add anything about systems that you've set up, or what about at home? Any systems that you've put in place at home to help things run more smoothly on that side?
We just started something, and by we I mean me. My husband asked me to. In the beginning of the year, my husband asked me to stop working in the living room And he's like, if you want to work at night, but go into your office. And because I would just bring my laptop in the living room, and I'm like, I'm in proximity of my family, so I'm hanging out, right? But not really. And so we have like a no laptop in the living room rule, I guess. And it's really hard because I don't want to not be with them. So I tend to not work at night, which is, it's great, but it's also like that's the time when I get all those like extra things like Susie was talking about, scope creep and, things that just are unexpected with clients or new proposals. I mean, all these things take time and they're outside of regular client work. So that's when I usually get them done. So I'm trying to find time elsewhere in the day, like maybe getting up a little bit earlier or whatever. But yeah, the no laptop in the living room thing is helping at our house anyway.
Oh, that would be a tough one because I do that at night too. I'm like, I'm sitting next to my husband. Doesn't that mean we're spending time together?
Right.
Like we're on the same couch. Isn't this quality time? Oh, I almost don't even want to suggest that to him.
I know. It kind of sucks. I'm not going to lie to you. It's like good and bad.
Great. Okay, so everyone here, and I forgot at the beginning, again, with my flustered brain starting a little bit late, we are missing one of our panelists. Val Geisler was unable to join us this morning because she's sick. She has the stomach flu. So she wanted me to tell everyone that she is participating in a lot of self-care, mama self-care right now. So just wanted to send her best. She was bummed that she couldn't make it, but wanted to send our best wishes out to Val and for a speedy recovery. And then from there, I want to transition into, we all have been in business now for a while. We've all started to see success in our business, some of us bigger successes, smaller successes, but we've all kind of transitioned to a little bit of a next level. And so I'd love to hear for each of you where you feel like that big shift came from, or what was the big shift, or maybe it wasn't a big shift, but what did you do in your business? Was it a decision that you made? Was it something that you invested in? Was it just kind of what happened where you feel like your business kind of moved to that next level? Can you attribute it to something? Verde, I'm going to start with you.
Good question. I think I've seen a couple shifts in my business in the past year, and one of them was just mindset shift, right? This idea of like working on like our self-worth. Like I remember when I was a musician, I kind of had this like OF moment where I realized I was like 30 grand in debt, and the reason was because I didn't like to charge for anything. Not only did I think I was not worth much, I didn't want to charge anything, like nothing. And so, you start your business and then you keep going on, and then you hit another roadblock, which, involves just like re-looking at your self-worth. And so that definitely every time I go through something like that, a shift happens in my business. And I would say most recently, and it's still very new, I did a rebrand. I invested heavily in my website. And that was because I've been in business long enough to have an idea of what my niche is, what my brand is, what my message is, and how I want to stake my claim. And I knew that I was having a baby, and I knew that I didn't want to spend that kind of money when I was expecting a baby. So I invested heavily in my business, in my website. And I just launched that in January, and I was so grateful for it, actually, as far as the timing goes, because sometimes what you're marketing now, you see the results in 3 months. And because I was out for 3 months of sickness, I was like, what is going to happen in the new year? Like, will I even have clients? And when I came to the end of my trimester, first trimester, and I launched this new brand, people saw me in a different way, and there was no hiccup. There was just like, I just kept going, and it was kept growing. So that would be investing in my like online brand and platform was the biggest thing, the latest shift.
That's great. I love it. Jules, how about you?
Well, I'm doing that same thing right now. Susie's actually building my new website. Very excited, and it's a big shift. It's a big shift in my brand too. And one thing you guys said really early on today was the different variations of your business. Like your business looked like this at one time, and then it kind of shifted to this and this. And I've had the same thing. I've been in business for 3 years, and it's looked different, I think, each of those years. I've done the same thing. Like I've always offered marketing and content marketing services, but the way I'm doing it, like how I'm approaching it, has changed, and I'm just kind of, playing with it to see what I like the most and what makes the most sense for my clients and all of that. But I think the biggest shift for me was going between thinking I needed a business partner to realizing that I could have collaboration partners instead and still feel the same way. Like I have a online community with a friend, Sandy Sadu, who's going to be a mom in like 3 days.
Yeah.
She's part of the Mama CEO Club. She's very excited. But she and I have an online community, and we aren't business partners. We just collaborated on this, and we can be collaboration partners and do something together that really we both enjoy without having to like start a whole business together. And that was a big shift for me. And finding more of those collaboration partners when it makes the most sense and can be strategic for my business has been really liberating, because I had a business partner whom I love, and she's still one of my very best friends, and we parted ways amicably, but having a business partner wasn't the right thing for me, but collaboration partners really seems to work well. So always looking for more of those, and that was a big shift mindset-wise for me.
That's great. Susie, how about for you?
I saw the biggest growth start to happen when I started getting help, like when I hired, this probably summer of 2013, I think. I got a VA. I actually trained my sister to be a VA because I wanted someone I knew, and she's great. And the circumstances worked out really, really well, and I got her, and then the next big hire I had was a bookkeeper and a lawyer, because with web design and any kind of design, there's so much intellectual property and clauses and things that can go wrong, and you want to have your butt covered legally. And having that support, even though those aren't, well, the VA is, but most of it wasn't like day-to-day actual design tasks being taken off my plate, was huge. I just was able to do so much more, and I really have to say it taught me, like, I think I was kind of a money hoarder up until that point, and it really taught me how much more I could make if I asked for help. And that's where when I've gotten stuck in my business, or not even stuck, but I just want to know how to do something, I don't hesitate to find like a really good business coach and ask them for some help. Or last January, February, I really wanted to step up my design game a little bit more, and I hired a design mentor to work with me. I don't like the old, you have to just learn things the hard way, you have to spin your wheels for a really long time, you have to, and it's probably just because I'm impatient, because I don't think that's wrong, but in my opinion, it's money either way. If you're spending a long time to become profitable because you're learning lessons the hard way, you're losing money. If you're spending money to have people show you how to do it, you're also, spending money. But I just think for me, this way got me where I wanted to be quicker. And so asking for help, getting support, and then even people I'm not paying, but just telling family and friends what's going on. If I need the kids gone for an afternoon, asking if someone can help, remembering to take breaks, that kind of thing. Because I'm such an independent person that learning to rely on other people for support was really hard. But every time I did and continue to do, my business grows, my level of happiness grows. So that's been like a big turning point, I guess, for me, is learning that lesson.
Yeah, I think we've all kind of said it, and I'll chime in that it's mine too. Is the kind of asking for support, whether you're paying someone to support you or just asking for support. And I know for me, Verity, I like how you said there were kind of a couple of different shifts and kind of some mindset shifts. Mm-hmm. And my first mindset shift was really just kind of getting honest with my husband about what I was doing and what my goals were. Oops, I got a little feedback. There we go. Because I think I was such a perfectionist that up until a certain point, I was just kind of telling him, I'm just doing this thing. I'm writing, and because I didn't really know what I was doing, and I wasn't really clear, and I just expected him to just support me and let me spend money, just kind of blanketly, and like, I don't know, I just want to do this thing. I'm just did it. And when I finally got clear and was able to say to him, I have a business. This is what I do. This is where I'm investing the money. This is how I'm going to see the return on the investment. Then he was able to support me. And I was so frustrated, and I used to say, like, oh, my husband is not supportive, my husband's not supportive. But he just didn't understand what I was doing. And once I was able to really get clear with him, he is incredibly supportive. I mean, he's waiting for me to, so that he can retire, and he wants to be the stay-at-home dad. But I saw that as like, oh, well, he's not supporting me, but he just didn't get it. He just didn't, because I wasn't telling him. It wasn't his fault. I wasn't telling him. And then like all of you have said, the big shift for me was hiring help. And big thanks to Susie for training her sister, because she's my VA also. So hiring a VA. I have an amazing designer who happens to be on this panel also, but when I hired Susie, like, it also made me, not only is my design elevated and the stuff that Susie does is amazing, but it forced me to also take responsibility for my business too. Like, it was, again, like, if I'm going to be investing this money, then I have to get her the stuff by the deadline. I have to do the things I say I'm going to do, or, take my business seriously. And then I saw a huge shift in my business, mentally and, logistically and financially, and all of those things. Yeah. Okay, so probably the number one thing I hear from mama CEOs and from my clients and from many of you on the panel is the idea of kind of when you get into that space, and we've talked about it a little bit already, but you get into that space of a little bit of overwhelm, whether it's overwhelm in your business or overwhelm in your home life, or how those two intersect. And I know for me it turns into a little bit of mommy guilt, like maybe I'm working too much, or gosh, I haven't, I put my kids in front of a TV show instead of spending time with them. What do you guys do to, and this will be good advice for Faraday, although we'll ask her opinion on the overwhelm piece too, but what do you guys do when you are feeling that overwhelm of like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? How am I going to get this all done? Am I a good parent? Am I doing this right? What do you do to get out of that? And I'm ready to take notes.
So am I.
Susie, why don't we start with you this time?
I call Megan. Like, like, that's honest to God what I do at this point, because I think Megan is incredibly talented at taking overwhelm and breaking it into bite-sized pieces and making it all doable, and I'm not. My brain does not work that way. I don't get overwhelmed easily, but once I've tipped into that, I circle and swirl, and I can't get out of it. And Megan, you've taught me to have systems in place. I use my Tiny Empire system to use Post-it notes and break things into little pieces. And a funny story was the first time I called Megan with overwhelm, like 2 years ago, I think. And you were like, well, get out your Post-it notes. And I said, well, I have to go to the store. I don't own any Post-it notes. And I thought Megan was going to fall out of her chair. But
I almost ended our friendship right there. Anyone who doesn't have
what do you mean you don't have Post-it notes? Yeah. And so, like, but literally just like being able to, because you can't tackle the monster all at once. You have to figure out what are you actually freaking out about. And sometimes I just have to, I can't brain dump in a journal, because then it becomes pages and pages of things to freak out about. But the Post-it note system works well for me because they're little and digestible and one sentence or sometimes one word, and being able to move them around and put them into categories. And sometimes when I do all that, I realize I'm actually only freaking out about one thing that I'm behind on, or one client that's going so far over scope that it's crowding out all the other clients, or one therapy session I don't know how to get Ollie to, and that one thing has blown up in my mind so much that everything else feels overwhelming. And so being able to use like Megan's tools to break things down to be more digestible, and then also, and I'm just singing your praises, Megan, but like you have lots of tools I've learned from you about ways to organize dinners that aren't like traditional meal planning, ways to like have, my favorite thing is like you have this escape plan, and Megan has this system for having things written down of where you can go where there's Wi-Fi and what to do if you have 10 minutes left in your kids' soccer practice, and just being prepared ahead of time has been really, really helpful for getting out of overwhelm. So
that's great. Thanks for all that too. Jules, how about you?
Man, that is such good advice. I don't really have the answer. I feel my daughter's 7 months old, and I feel overwhelmed like every day. I'm not going to tell you I have this figured out, because I don't. I guess it's interesting to hear you say, Susie, that it's kind of sometimes it's all kind of leading back to one thing, because if I think about it, that's true. it's usually just one thing, and if I can get a hold of that one thing, usually the rest of it isn't that big of a deal, and it's all doable. One thing I've had to do recently, which I don't normally do, it's not my style to do, but I've had to go back to a couple clients and just say, I need more time than I anticipated. I thought I could get this done in whatever time frame, and I am not going to be able to meet that deadline. And it's a deadline I set. It's not like my clients set deadlines for me. And going back to them and hearing them say, no problem, because it's not, I don't do it all the time. I do it very infrequently, and when I do, it's for a good reason. And I've been really pleasantly surprised by my clients' reaction to that. And then I know, not only am I going to get it done by that deadline, whatever the second one is, but it gives me a little time to get whatever my life is in order over here on the side. And I also know that client is a client I want to have for life, and those are the kinds of clients I want to build anyway. The client-to-client relationships that I work with them on and on, over the years. And so it's been eye-opening. I don't have any answers, but I love the advice that you gave, Susie. I'll be using that.
No, I think that is good. I think you do have some answers in there, and I think that's good. And I think it comes back to a little bit even what we were talking about with Faraday, about knowing really clearly what you love to do and what you want to do. And I think like what you said about, okay, I know that these clients, I want to have a long-term relationship, so I'm going to do what I need to do to nurture these clients. And I think just like we're all talking today, I feel like with my clients, and I'm sure you guys feel the same, if I can be open and transparent, I'm not saying be flaky, but if you can be open and transparent with your clients, it's such a better relationship anyways. And I think as mama CEOs, I think that's a really important, again, you don't want to every 5 minutes be like, oh, my kid's sick, or oh, this, and you always use them as excuses, but being open and transparent, like, hey, this is what's happening, this is what's going on, this is how I'm going to make it right, or this is what it's going to look like now. I think as a consumer, I appreciate that. So, Faraday, how about for you? I know you've been going crazy the last couple of weeks and months, and have completely launched a product in like 2 weeks. So there had to have been some. Please tell me there was a little bit of overwhelm there.
It's funny actually, because I was like, I got 3 things about overwhelm. So when it comes to I did launch I created a product and launched it in 2 weeks, which is really insane. But the reason I did that was it was just pregnancy hormones and all the things all right now. But when I would be overwhelmed and I was like, this is impossible, I'd remind myself that it is impossible if I do it alone. And so I just cannot do it alone. So that's one of the things I do when I'm overwhelmed, is I just try and think of like, who else can do this? And probably the biggest person who's taught me how to get through overwhelm is my husband. My husband is very good at being like, whoa, you're doing too much. Stop it. Right? Like, when we got married, it was like we knew we don't want to get pregnant for at least a year, just to allow our marriage. And when we thought about maybe we should buy a house, we're like, Mark is like, well, that's another stress too. So why don't we just have a baby first? And then maybe, and on the last day of the month when I had my biggest month ever, I go downstairs, there's a giant leak in my house, and I was like, thank God I'm a rental landlord.
Yeah.
I didn't have to call
That's funny. I am too, Faraday. I'm the same. Sorry, you just got excited. But we're a rental, and we have the money saved up to buy a house and stuff, and I keep putting it off because it's just a responsibility I don't want right now. I will eventually, but it's so nice to call a landlord and let someone else shovel the driveway.
I don't need to worry about a plumber or this, and they're probably gonna have to bust down a wall, and oh my God. And so that's one thing when I do with overwhelm is I agree with Susie. One thing is it's usually one thing, and for me that's usually an emotional thing. So it's not usually like I feel like I have too much work. It is often a client's being really demanding, the scope has creeped, and I'm anxious about how to deal with that. Or a client is angry with me. Not that happens. It's more like when I get overwhelmed, I think people are mad at me. I'm not sure if anybody feels that, but I'm like, I'm anxious. There must be someone angry at me. I'm not sure if it's my husband and so that's kind of usually I reach out and be like, hey, I'm sorry to, whatever, and nobody's mad at me. It's just everything in my own mind. And
Do you
But
ever
then
do
the other
that to your
thing,
husband? I feel like I do that to my husband sometimes.
I ask my
where
husband if he's
I'm
angry with me every day.
where I'll go to him and be like, "You seem really stressed. What's going on? You seem really stressed." And he's like, I'm not stressed." I'm like, "Oh, I'm stressed. Sorry about that."
I did it wrong.
Yeah, that's totally it. Yeah, and then the other thing is there's the emotional thing, and then there's usually I've just taken on too much and the expectations are too high, and I just need to stay like, what doesn't need to get done? And there's usually some things that's like, you know what, if you miss a blog post, it's not the end of the world.
Mm-hmm.
Like, your newsletter subscribers are going to live. They're going to be fine. And like, I mean, your Google Analytics tracks are going to die, of course, but that's okay. Like, I mean, I watched that plummet over December when I was too sick. I was just like, I didn't write any blog posts, and it's not going to happen. And this is not going to happen. And Google Analytics, well, it showed me what the results of that are. But they came back.
That's great. And I'll just throw in one really quick one because you guys have kind of said mine and I've kind of chimed in. And definitely, I mean, everything that it's always the cobbler's children has no shoes. I totally get overwhelmed too, even though I have some tools and techniques that I share with other people. And I definitely do what Susie was saying as far as post-it noting everything out and brain dumping, and those are big. But recently, I've added a new one to my arsenal, and because what I found, kind of like what Faraday was just saying, is I found that sometimes I'm feeling really anxious about something happening or that I'm not actually in control of, or not directly in control of. And I'll be really honest, I'm getting ready to launch my next round of my Mama Mastermind, which we'll talk about in a minute. And I was having a lot of anxiety, kind of that like, what if no one signs up? What if I have to eat top ramen and we have to like move in with the neighbors? Like what if nobody signs up? And what I realized is that I'm not actually in control of that. Like I'm not actually in control of someone clicking the buy button, and so what I did, because I'm a list maker and I'm a post-it noter, is I wrote down, well, what am I in control of? Like, what about this anxiety that I'm having can I do something about? And I made a list, and I have it, I have it right here, and it's like, okay, I can send out emails, I can promote this webinar. Like, I made a list of the things that I'm actually in control of, because then it's then the rest of it is out of my hands, and that's been something that I've had to do when I am feeling overwhelmed and anxious. Is it's like, okay, well, what can I do? Like, what am I responsible for? And that's helped a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's I'm stealing that.
That's really good.
I literally have just started doing it because I was like, okay, there's just things in business and in life and in our kids that you're not in control of, that you can't control. And, I started getting really worried, making sure my first grader had enough friends. And I worried that because I'm so busy and I work so hard that maybe I wasn't like, am I not hosting enough play dates? Am I not going out to coffee with the moms enough? And but so then I thought about like, okay, well, what of those things am I in control of? Do we need to have a few more play dates? Do I need to make more of an effort to reach out to some of the other moms? And what is in my control? And then part of it, he's just gonna have to make friends, just like the rest of us, right?
And you might just be a little weirdo like me, and this never happened.
Yeah. It's worked out well for you.
It works out well.
So like I said, ladies, I'm getting ready to start the next round of my Mama Mastermind, which is a group where all of you on the call here today are all guest experts in the Mama Mastermind, which I'm so honored to have you joining us. And you have all been a part of other masterminds. And Faraday and I are in a mastermind together right now, and everyone has been a part of different masterminds. So I'd love to hear, and it's really what we've been talking about a lot on this call, is about the importance of having support, and the importance of whether it's support from a family member or from a business friend or from a coach or from paying for a mastermind. I'd love to hear your experiences and your advice around finding that support and making sure. Sometimes it can be really lonely behind our computers, and making sure that we are reaching out and joining communities and getting that support we need. So I'd love to just, before we wrap up, I'd love to just hear your each of your advice on that. And Faraday, we'll start with you.
Oh,
Sorry,
so
kind of Threw it at you there.
I'm supposed to.
Your advice
I'll
on
jump in.
finding. Okay, Susie will go first. Susie will
I'll
go
jump in.
first.
No, I think finding first figuring out what your goals are, even if it's not specific numbers, or I want to grow this part of my business, or I want to feel more connected, or but it has some kind of goal, because I've seen people join masterminds before thinking just by joining the mastermind it's your magic bullet for all things to happen. And then also I would say take a really good look at the person leading it and what kind of people they attract. So like Megan, for you that's really easy. People can just go to your amazing Mama CEO Facebook group, which is free, and it has like almost 1,000 people in there, and they're active
We hit
and
1,000
fun
last
and
night.
wonderful. And they're supportive, and like it's just a fun place to be. And so like that's a really good way to be like, okay, Megan attracts incredible people that I'm going to get a lot out of being with. So that's really important when you're looking for one. And then also just like, again, not just joining and expecting magical things to happen, like asking for help, telling the people in your mastermind group what you need, not just venting about clients, but saying, I'm really having this specific issue. Here's what I think I'm doing wrong. How would you guys help me fix it? And being a really active participant. And it's just, I find mastermind groups to be so essential. Because like you said, Megan, we're alone. We're behind our computer screens. And as someone like me, that collaboration and creativity and connection is really, really important. I find good mastermind groups led by really great people to be very helpful in that.
Yeah, same here. I think the people, like you were saying, is really interesting, because you're not going to know exactly who's going to be in a mastermind group before you join, but the type of person that the leader attracts is a good place to start. The other thing I would say, and I've done this well before, and I've also done it really poorly based on different masterminds I've been in, but is making sure you're setting aside time for really like awesome growth, because it happens. I mean, you join a mastermind group, and I mean, not every time, but if the mastermind group is really well run and you learn a lot, you're going to grow a lot. And so setting aside time for like all the ideas that you're going to have and all of the collaborations you want to do with other people and things you want to try is important, because you can't just be a part of the group and like things magically happen. You have to set aside time for like the work on your end too. And so knowing, maybe that's a question to ask the mastermind leader, like how much time would you set aside before joining? But that's one thing I've experienced from mastermind groups.
Nice. I think it's interesting what you guys talk about, because it is what I've like naturally done, like being like, well, I'm not really. Sometimes I'm always like, I'm not really sure if I like what they're going to talk about, but I know that the people around them, this makes sense, right? So I'm kind of in a place where sometimes I get coaching or masterminds from people who like their actual work doesn't excite me, but that's probably where I need to work. Do you know what I mean? Like I'm kind of excited to people who are like the original, but I'm like, I got that down. Like the whole like systems or other things, or mainly it's just systems. I spend or getting other people on your team. It was like that's not my thing, but taking those courses have made the hugest difference to my business. What I will say for myself is just how masterminds have made a difference. I have an accountability partner, but she's not always available, and so I need other places, and she's just one person. And when I had my biggest month ever, the reason Megan knows about that is because I shared that in my mastermind group, and I'm not going to put that on my Facebook page, because
I just shared it with everyone, but
other entrepreneurs, so people who can celebrate, but I'm not always going to share that with, say, like my local community, because I don't know how they're going to react.
Right.
And actually a big thing is just being pregnant has been really helpful too. Just like I've noticed so many women have like reached out to me, but being pregnant as a Canadian is really different than Americans, I find, in the way that like there's an expectation that I would take a whole year off to be home with my baby and not work, and I'm like, I would kill my business, right? So all my American friends are like, oh yeah, I might take the whole 3 months. And suddenly I'm like, yeah, I might be able to do 3 months. Or it's a reality that many people have nannies or childcare, and that's like not something other people like. I'm not sure I can actually get childcare as early as 3 months anyway, but just because of there's just no people who do that here. But just having people who, like, we share a similar reality. When you have a mastermind group with other women, you share a reality that other people don't get. When people are like, so what is it you do? I'm like, I help people launch online courses. And they're like, that exists. I'm like, yeah, it does.
It does.
It's totally normal all day, but now that I say it out loud to somebody outside of a laptop, it seems a little strange. But yeah, so that's the bounties of those masterminds, is that they're a safe place for you to go, and celebrate and have struggles and share, like, who get it, who really get what you're doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's definitely we finished one round of the Mama Mastermind, and we're about to start the second, and that was probably the biggest thing. The reason I started it was because being in business, I felt like I had support in business, and I'd been a great part of business masterminds, and I felt like I had mommy support from my friends and my friends that were moms, but I didn't have a place where I could get both of those things together. And I definitely reached out to people on this panel and to business friends and said, hey, you're going through the same thing I am. Can we talk about this? And I just really realized there was a need for that. There was a need for that community where we could focus and be really business focused. We're not going to talk about changing diapers and sleep training all day long or whatever it is. We're going to talk about business, but knowing that sometimes you have to take your kid to their therapy appointment, or sometimes your kid is going to get sick and it's going to blow your client calls for the whole day, and having that, it's been invaluable to me, and that's why I wanted to offer it to the community. And we'll be talking more about the Mama Mastermind all week, and if it's something that if you're watching this and it's something you're interested in, you can definitely check out meganflatt.com/Mama Mastermind to learn a little bit more. It'll go live at the end of the week. Before we wrap up, last thing, I just want to do a quick kind of rapid fire to each of you. If there's one little bit of advice or a word or a takeaway from today's talk that you could give all the Mama CEOs watching, I'd love to hear what either your takeaway from the day is or one piece of advice that you have for everyone watching. And Jules, I'm going to put you on the spot and go to you first.
Sure. My biggest takeaway, I think, from learning from you guys today was that it might just be one thing when overwhelm hits, because I'm in that overwhelmed place right now. So it might just be one thing. And so I'm going to use my tiny empire system, Megan, and figure out what the thing is so that I can move forward with the rest of my stuff. So that would be my biggest takeaway.
That's great. Susie, how about you?
I think I want to try the no laptop in the community, in the common areas rule in the evenings. I have been retreating back to my own room a little bit to work, but then I'm away from the family. So my kids need to see what I look like without a computer in my face. So I'm going to try that.
That's great. And Faraday, how about you? What's your takeaway from today?
I liked what Susie said about investing I don't know. I mean, I have a sizable team, but I'm like, you know what? She's probably right. I probably need to invest again.
Yeah, and I think that might be my biggest takeaway from today is just how important support is. When that's the classic quote, just because you're in business for yourself doesn't mean you have to be in business by yourself. Mm-hmm. And so making sure you're making those, whether it's hiring help, whether it's investing in your business, whether it's reaching out to a business friend like I did to Susie this morning and started with, hey, I just need to vent, and having those business friends that you can just kind of either whether you're complaining about your webinar hosting platform or whether you're complaining about something that's happening in your home life, having those people that you can connect to. So that would be my big takeaway from today, is just you don't have to do this by yourself. Get support, get help, talk about what you're doing, and get, move forward with your business and with your life. Mm-hmm. So you guys, this was amazing. I had so much fun. I hope that you guys enjoyed this as much as I did. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Megan. This is great.
Absolutely. Thank you. And thanks to everyone who tuned in. We had quite a few viewers tune in live, and anyone who's listening to this recording, I really appreciate it. And you'll be getting interviews all week. We have 10 more Mama CEOs to hear from over the next couple of days, short interviews all about everything from meal planning to the importance of sleep to business strategy, all sorts of topics we're talking about over the next 3 days. And then I'll be back with you live on Friday to talk about my top 3 tips for structuring your week for Mama CEO success. So I can't wait for that. It'll be really fun too. So thanks again for joining, and we'll see you the rest of the week on the Mama CEO Talks.